Welcome to the Better Business Podcast. I'm your host, Austin Zellin. Join me week after week as I interview high-level entrepreneurs on their journey to success, both in business and personal development. Each week presents new stories to learn from and new ideas on how to run a better business. Stay updated with all the guests we'll have by subscribing to this podcast. Alrighty, welcome to Better Business with Austin Zellin. Today we have our guest, Miss Avery Carl. We're going to be talking about a couple really cool things in business and real estate, and so I think you guys are going to find this very, very valuable. So before we get started, Avery, could you please tell us a little bit about your business and the things that you focus on, and then we'll go ahead and kind of click down into some of the things within your business.
Yeah. So my name's Avery Carl. I'm a real estate investor. I have 250 doors personally. And my story is in real estate is that it kind of happened accidentally. So I also, we can get into that later, but I run a company called the Short Term Shop. It's actually a team within EXP, and we're the number one team in the world at EXP Realty. I'm an investor. I've got a book called Short Term Rental, Long Term Wealth, a podcast called The Short Term Show. So my kind of experience in investing so far has been that I used short-term rentals towards the beginning of my investing career to kind of climb into other types of real estate investing. And then in the short-term shop, we teach our clients how to do the same thing. So we help people buy properties, and then we teach them how to manage them and optimize them so that they can build that cash flow to then go buy more real estate or whatever they want to invest in.
Okay, interesting. So do you find short-term real estate to be a more preferred business model for yourself, or do you think that it's overall just more profitable and that's why you lean towards that?
It just depends. So it's the way that I started, and I knew we wanted to get into real estate investing. We kind of fell into it backwards, like I said, because we were moving from New York City to Nashville, which at the time, Nashville was much more affordable than it is now.
Yeah.
And our real estate agent was trying to get us to buy in this really hip, like fast appreciating area of Nashville called East Nashville. And she was saying things like, people's houses are appreciating $100,000 in a year, which that was pre-2022. We didn't know that was around the corner. Yeah. But we were like, oh, no. We're moving from Brooklyn to Tennessee. We're tired of neighbors. We want to go out in the country. So we bought a house out in the country. But at the time, I was really into personal finance and Dave Ramsey. And not anymore, obviously. But I thought, man, we've got a little money left. What if we bought one of those houses and then we rented it out so we're not paying the mortgage? And then one day when our future kids need to go to college, we can just sell that house and pay for their college out of that appreciation and not out of our income from our jobs. And I thought we were like these geniuses. We're going to do this. So we did. Yeah. And we found one. It was a long-term rental, bought it, and it was cash flowing $1,000 over the mortgage every month. And I, with a master's degree working in the music industry, which pays nothing, after deductions on my paycheck, was making about $1,000 a month. So we said, wait a minute, we just doubled my income.
Wow. And
so then we actually started educating ourselves about investing in real estate. And we had, again, just a little bit of money left. We wanted to buy apartment buildings. We wanted to buy a lot of long-term rentals, but we just had a little bit of money. And so we said, well, what can we buy that's going to make us the most amount of money the fastest so that we can buy more faster? And so we landed on short-term rentals. We knew we didn't want to do it in Nashville because the regulations were really volatile. So we landed on the Smoky Mountains about 3 hours east of Nashville. And at the time, this was 2015. So there were not courses. There wasn't YouTube content on this. We kind of had to figure it out ourselves. And so we found a property, which is much easier to finance with conventional financing than having to go get commercial financing for an apartment building. And at the time, all the property managers in the market their average split was 40% of your gross. And we were like, wait a minute, wow. we need that 40%. We want to go buy more real estate. So we kind of figured out how to manage ourselves. And there weren't really, again, the property management software business was really in its infancy. So we just kind of figured it out and just kind of took off with it and were able to scale that way, turn 1 into 5 over the course of the next year and a half. And over the course of that time, I got my real estate license, and friends started saying things like, you're making how much on that cabin in the Smokies? Help me buy one. Teach me how to do that. And then what would eventually be the short-term shop was born. And so now we've got agents in 20 markets all across the country, all vacation markets, helping people buy short-term rentals and teaching them how to manage them themselves so they don't have to give away that 25 to 40%. So to answer your question, after I've just talked your ear off about it, I don't think that short-term rentals are the right and only way. I think that they're a really great thing to have. They're an important part of any real estate investing portfolio. But what they are is a really great place to start because you can put as little as 15% down on a conventional investment loan.
Mhm.
So it's easier to get your foot in the door of getting that cash flow rolling than going and buying, an apartment building where if you don't really have any experience in that, a bank's not really going to want to finance you an apartment building. So it's a great place to start.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me more about how you're getting these properties for 15% down, because I know traditionally for an investment loan, it's about 20% down. And that's the experience that even I've had personally, but I'm just getting into real estate. You're the expert here. So how can our viewers get, for example, Airbnb in a vacation zone for 15% down? Is there a process that you follow?
So actually, no, it's a little known fact. It's actually a Fannie Mae guideline. I'm part owner in a mortgage company, and not any lender, different lenders might have different in-house rules, but for Fannie Mae, for a conventional investment loan, the minimum percent down you can put for single family is 15%. So up to the jumbo loan amount limit, which is right around, it's like 750-ish thousand. They just changed it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't realize that. They think it's 20 or 25%, but it's actually 15.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's a very valuable fact to know.
Well, there's another loan that does have some stipulations. It's also conventional called a vacation home loan. That's only 10% down. But
wow.
Yeah, that one you do have some boxes you have to check in terms of what your intent for the property is. So you do have to intend to vacation there at least 2 weeks a year or for some amount of time. Fannie Mae just changed that guideline as well. But if you're planning to use it only as an investment, then you really should just do that extra 5% and put that conventional investment loan rather than the vacation home loan, because you don't want to get in gray areas when it.
Yeah. That's the proper way to do it for sure. We definitely want to stay above board. So one thing I know that people often have questions about is what are certain areas in the United States that you would say are the best for like short-term rentals or Airbnbs? Is it more like up north cabin type stuff, or is it maybe down south on the beach? Because I know traditionally when people think of vacation, I think most people think of the beach. And so those areas I know can get pretty saturated. And even with my vacation rentals, that's where I've gone. So cabins and stuff like that, do you find that performing similarly to beach properties, or is it just a totally different world?
So it just depends. So I own some beach properties. I own some mountain properties. A short-term shop operates in beach markets, mountain markets, lake markets, national park markets. So it really just depends on your goals personally. I like to stay in vacation markets and vacation rentals because these are areas that it's been the normal thing for decades and decades for people to stay in vacation rentals rather than hotels. So I try to stay out of metro markets for the most part, because that's where you start seeing a lot of that anti-short-term rental regulation, and rightfully so. You don't want to live next to a short-term rental. I live in a vacation rental area, and I make my money off vacation rentals, but I still don't want one next door to me. So, I get it. I get that.
That makes sense.
So it just kind of depends on what your goals are and what you're looking to do. So, I can give you an example. I think people get scared of coastal property because they know it's going to be seasonal. They're like, oh, I don't want to buy that. That's going to be seasonal. Well, it is. But I've got a mountain property and a beach property, one in the Smoky Mountains and one in Destin, Florida, where I live. And I bought them in the same year. They're both 4 bedrooms. And the mountain property in the Smokies has like an 85% occupancy rate. So it is booked all year. The beach property has a 62% occupancy rate. It's only booked from March to the end of October. So if you're only looking at that, you're like, oh, I'm going to go cabin all day. But the beach property makes $45,000 a year more than the mountain property. It just does it in a shorter period of time.
Wow.
So yeah, if you're somebody who wants to be able to stay in your property some without cutting into your income, a coastal property might be a really great place to do it, or a seasonal property. So I think people get caught up in seasonality and lose sight of how much, what the actual income is.
Yeah, it's important to pay attention to that bottom line, the ROI that you're making on this property. So, okay, cool. And so do you typically just buy your properties, or do you arbitrage at all? Have you tried that?
I have never arbitraged. I'm a big fan of owning the real estate so that you get all of the other benefits besides the cash flow. Yeah. You get the appreciation, you get the tax benefits. I have nothing against arbitrage. I think it can be a really great place for people to start to build some cash flow so that they can own their own properties. But I think it should be a means to an end. I think the end goal is actually owning the real estate.
Yeah, awesome. So I know we were chatting a little bit earlier that you are number one in EXP. Can you tell us a little bit more about that journey and becoming who you are today?
Yeah. So the short term shop has been the number one team at EXP in the world for the past 2 years. And I think that the reason that that's happened is really because of our clients. So investors typically buy more than one property. And
Yeah.
our goal for our clients is to make them so successful that they say, hey, I want to buy another property with the short term shop. So I think it's over 45% of our sales are repeat clients. So
Hmm.
I think it's a really good example of, giving really great service and going the extra mile. So we have unlimited live coaching on how to manage your property for all of our
Mm,
clients for free. If you buy with us, you have access to that. So we're here,
awesome.
we're not just selling you a house and like moving on. So we really try to make sure that everybody is successful with their properties. Actually, when clients come to me and say, hey, I want to sell my property, I get a little sad inside, even if
Mm,
they're like exchanging into something bigger. I'm like, oh no, did it not work? Um, but it's most of our clients, they come back multiple times. So I think it's working with investors is something that a lot of agents are kind of scared of.
yeah.
And if you know what you're doing, like if you're an investor yourself, so all of our agents are investors as well. So between all of us at the shop, we've got 400 doors that we own, all independently, not together. And so it's really, being an expert and being the expert in your field, I think is what we can attribute that to is practicing what we preach.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. So you mentioned something really interesting about managing properties themselves. Now, we do real estate. I have a program coaching people on real estate and other investments and kind of how I've done it, but I've always gone more of the passive way.
Mhm.
And I want as little involvement as possible. I don't want to answer client DMs. I don't want to like, I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to manage the property. So I've always used property management services. So do you find that some people, like once they reach a certain level, maybe let's say 5 houses or 10 houses, they're like, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't want to manage this on my own because I'm making enough that even if I pay a property management company, I'm still fine. And that way I have all this freedom back. I
Mhm.
have time freedom now.
Yeah. So I'm a big believer. I use property management companies for all my long-term rentals. Like I do not want to do credit checks and have to walk you through every time you want to rent one of our houses and or
Yeah,
one of our
exactly.
apartment buildings. So we do use property management for all of our long-term rentals. So we've 8 short-term rentals. The rest of our 250 doors are long-terms. So, but for our short terms, it's a little bit different. So if I would have paid a property manager on our 8 properties last year, 25%, I would have been paying him 250 grand. And I've got better things I can do with that 250 grand, like go buy more real estate than to pay someone that much for what is essentially like a $50,000 a year job. So what most people do and what we kind of teach our clients to do is once you get to that point of, for some people it's 5 properties, for some people it's 20 properties. It's whenever you feel like, okay, this is doing a little more than like interrupting my dinner occasionally, is we hire VAs. So we've got a full-time VA that he works for us in across multiple businesses, but he probably spends, I would say, like a quarter of his time on our guest messaging and managing our properties. So
Hmm.
by teaching him, so we have our established list of like standard operating procedures that we've created. We've got a lot of Loom videos, all that. So it's a little bit time intensive setting it up. But then once you train a virtual assistant to be able to do all this, it's much like you get to keep so much more money than if you use like a true property manager for 25% of your gross.
Definitely. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that idea of training somebody up to be on your team that's working maybe even in other parts of your business, but also part of their time is dedicated to managing the property and answering client requests and whatever it might be. So that's very interesting, and I think that's a very valuable model. Now, so your entrepreneurial journey has kind of been focused mostly on real estate. Were you ever working anywhere else, or were you always an entrepreneur?
No, so I graduated undergrad from University of Texas in the spring of 2009 when there were 0 jobs, period, for
Hmm.
freshly graduated people such as myself.
Yeah.
So I was a musician. I played guitar, toured in punk rock bands, got to go all over the world during doing that because there were just no jobs. So I said, well, you know what? I'm going to take this time. I'm going to do this. Bartended for several years. Uh, Bartended in New York City and LA and Austin, all these places. And once the market kind of started to roll back around, I thought, man, now I've been in the service industry for so long, I probably need to go back to grad school. So went back to grad school at Belmont University in Nashville. And I'd been a musician for so long, I thought, oh, well, Nashville's perfect. I'll just get a job in the music industry. And there'll be a lot of people just like me who are into music and, it's time for big girl jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Not that music isn't a big girl job, but you know what I mean? And so I did that. I went and got a job as a marketing manager on the business side of music. And what I found was that thing about the music business and the film business and all of that fun stuff is that there's always an intern willing to do your job for free. So they really don't pay that much because everybody wants to be in the music business, right? It's sexy.
Yeah.
And I hated it. Especially, Nashville's more country music. I'm not super into country music. I'm more of a rock and roller myself, but you'd have to put in so much time. I was making $37,000 a year with 5 years of experience and a master's degree. And I'm like, man, there are no promotions happening. I found that I almost got fired. I had 3 jobs in a row that I came very close to getting fired from. And I realized I'm not a good employee. I am not an employee person. And when I think back, to how I was raised, my dad, both sets of grandparents, none of them were employees. They all had their own businesses. So I didn't even think about the fact that you weren't really exposed to going and working for somebody else your whole life. So the real estate thing kind of just happened organically, but there was that definite feeling that I think a lot of our clients and people who get into investing in general have of trying to get out of that 9 to 5 for sure.
Yeah. So what's your favorite part about being an entrepreneur? Is it the time freedom, the financial freedom? Is it anything specific, or is it just that entrepreneurial lifestyle that you love?
I like a little bit of all of it. So for me, the most important thing that I appreciate is the time freedom. So for example, last week, my daughter had a dentist appointment. I took her to a dentist appointment at 10 and she goes, "Hey mama," she's 5. Can we go see a movie? And I'm like, you know what? Let's go see a damn movie. Yeah, let's go see a movie. I don't have to call anybody to ask, hey, can I get off work? I have the freedom of time to just say, you know what? My 5-year-old wants to go see a movie. We're going to have a fun day and take off the rest of the day of school.
Yeah.
I also am, I would say, maybe unhealthily competitive, and entrepreneurship kind of gives me an outlet for that, of really just competing with myself. So it's definitely the building aspect. I love the building aspect of being an entrepreneur, but there's a lot of things that I think people don't realize about it, that you're trading one job for 1,000 jobs when you become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, definitely. It is definitely a little bit more hectic. I used to consult at Microsoft, and I remember just having one little thing that I did, and there were other people that did all the other things. And now it's all right, you get to do everything.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely a different experience, but it's very valuable because it causes you to learn all these different parts of business, which I think are very, very valuable. And of course, we're all learning. And so as far as learning is concerned, in your experience, do you see learning as a big aspect of your success? And how do you continue learning?
Oh, 1,000%. My husband and I both read a lot of books. He's a marathon runner, so he listens to them, 3 hours of running every day. But I love the act of actually reading. And I have a Kindle, but I like paper books. If I've got to be on a plane or something, I'll bring it. But I love reading books. I love reading how other people have built things. And I'm one of those dorks who really like school. At some point after my kids are grown, I'll probably go get a PhD for fun because I like school.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of reading in our house. I listen to a lot of podcasts, watch a lot of YouTube in the background, while I'm working. I just love to hear how other people have built their businesses, and just business in general is fascinating to me.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so do you find that books are your main source of knowledge for all this, or do you pay mentors or anything like that?
I have not paid a mentor yet. That's not to say that I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Just the time, not only in my life, but the time that we started investing in short-term rentals just kind of didn't line up with there being any great quality mentors out there. There might have been, no offense to anyone who I was not aware of that was out there at the time. But we just didn't have it. So we kind of figured things out as we went. There are some things I probably should hire a mentor for, and there's a lot of great ones out there, but I personally just have not done that yet.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I know everybody has like their own perspective on mentors and hiring people for those specific things. And that's actually been a very valuable thing for me is finding that one person that knows how to do that one thing that I need in my business. And it might not be like a mentor all around in life, but just that one thing that I need help with, just paying somebody to help me just like accelerate that aspect of my business. So do you believe that the environment that you're in, do you believe that that contributes to your growth or maybe even affects the pace of your growth? I know in my life personally, I've been in environments where I felt stagnant and I didn't feel like I was growing. And it took me a while to realize that I wasn't growing. But when I realized it, I immediately started looking for ways to change my environment. I started looking for ways to put myself in rooms where everybody else was much more successful than I am. And that caused me to learn. So, how do you see environments affecting your business? And do you purposefully put yourself in environments that help you change your mindset and grow?
That's a really, really great question. And yes, I think that environment 100% makes a difference. So back when I was playing music, there weren't really, I didn't have any friends or associates who were the type of musician who were like very strict with practicing and with becoming better and things like that. It was more just kind of like, punk rockers drinking and playing when they could. So I think if back then, that was something that I would say failed at. And I think that it was because I didn't treat it with the respect that it deserved in terms of getting better and climbing that ladder.
Hmm.
And then now I was also 20. So I need to give myself a little credit. Everybody's an idiot when they're 20. Now I do try to make sure that I surround myself with people who are better than me at the thing that I'm trying to be better at,
Yeah.
which, for now is business and investing. And I think that you're 100% a product of the environment, not 100% a product, but it definitely has a big effect on
Hmm.
how far you're able to go because you see what other people are doing and you kind of absorb things from them. And I think it really makes a difference.
Hmm. And how do you seek out these people that are helping you take things to the next level? Is it just like communities that you're a part of or networking, or how do you find those people that you can learn from?
I guess I would say networking. I hate the word networking because you ever feel like you're being networked? Like when people come up and talk to you or at least I do in like if I'm at a conference and I can feel, somebody's talking to me, but I can feel them looking for like someone who could better benefit them walking around behind me. I like to, try to make friends with people and like I just don't like the word networking because it people get so fake about it, like let's just, if you want to be friends with somebody, genuinely be friends with them, be a real person. Don't run around networking everybody and, be looking behind them for who's the next coolest person that you can talk to. And, but I think, just from organically meeting people at conferences and just talking to people and opening up and, being, like I said, being a real person and having real conversations with people.
Yeah. So are there any people in business that really inspire you with what they've built, maybe with their business or with their career or even just with their real estate investments? I know you're in real estate. So are there any people that you really look up to that are inspirational?
Well, we happen to run into one on the way in, Ryan Pineda, super impressive guy. I love
Yeah.
everything that he's built. Obviously, Cody Sanchez, awesome. I follow, I read every email she sends out. I follow all of her content. And I'm a big fan of Ricky Caruth. Also, he's more on the real estate agent influencer side, but
Hmm.
I watch a lot of, being in the real estate world in the short-term shop, your business is really dependent on what the economy is and what the interest rates are at the time. And he does a really good job of like breaking everything down. And so he's another one that I'm very impressed with.
Yeah, definitely. And so do you feel like looking at what these people have built has helped you run a better business?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, I've got a podcast, I've got a book, I do content just like, the rest of us. And going to interview on Ryan's podcast earlier this year and seeing, the business that he's built and the setup that he has, that was like really next level for me. I was like,
Yeah.
man, this guy's crushing it. And so I have absolutely, gone home to my office and realized like, oh, there's some things that he's doing that I could be doing that like, because he is, next level. So I absolutely think that there's something to be learned and absorbed from everyone.
Yeah, definitely. So for our viewers today, the people are watching this to see how they can run a better business. So what are maybe like 2 or 3 things that you focused on in your business or in your entrepreneurial journey that has allowed you to deliver better to clients, to run maybe a more efficient or effective business? And at the end of the day, like we were talking about, producing that better ROI for yourself and for your clients.
I don't know that people are gonna really like this one, but my time in the service industry and bartending almost taught me more about being an entrepreneur in a client-facing business than my MBA did, because you are just dealing with so many personalities in a day. And some people are great and wonderful. Most people are great and wonderful when you're dealing with them. And whether you're in a bar or whether you're a real estate agent, it's still the service industry. Or whether you're an Airbnb host, it's still hospitality industry. But it can be really difficult to deal with all different types of personality types. Some people are going to come in and they're going to be assholes, and that's just what they're doing. They're not doing it to you. I think that that's the working in the service industry has kind of taught me that, like, to deal with any type of person, that if somebody's like being a jerk or unnecessarily rude or mean or insert thing here, they're not doing that to you. They're not like, I think I'm going to be really mean to Avery today. They're just being them, and it's not personal. And once you kind of learn that, when someone doesn't come across the way that you hope they do, they're not doing it to you, that's just the way they are, it's nothing personal, then you kind of learn how to deal with it better. You learn how to communicate with them the way they want to be communicated with. And I think that translates over into any business. So I would say everybody needs to wait tables or bartend for at least 6 months of their life to really understand and get that concept.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's something so valuable about being able to deal with so many different personality types, so many different types of people. And I think it's a real test of your business acumen and your skill as a business person to be able to work with these people. Because at the end of the day, it's really easy to work with pleasant clients. It's really easy to work with people who love you and are only saying positive things and all that. But it's a real test of your business ability and how customer service, how well you know customer service, and how to improve that customer experience when you experience bad clients or negative feedback or things like that that maybe aren't so pleasant to hear. So that's a really, really great point. Now, as far as your potential as a business owner or an entrepreneur, I think that's such an important aspect of business as well, and reaching that full potential. I know one of my biggest fears in life is that I wouldn't reach my full potential, because I know I have so many things that I could be doing. So I need to focus on the ones that are going to get me the closest to that end goal as I possibly can. So how important do you believe personal growth is to that journey, to reaching your full potential?
Oh gosh, I mean, I would say it's an integral part of reaching your own potential. So if I had the same mindset today or even 5 years ago that I did when I was 20, I mean, I don't know where I'd be. I certainly wouldn't be anywhere close to where we are. I think that, just personal growth, and like I said, just one question ago, learning to understand that when someone is treating you in a way that is unpleasant to you, that's not like, they're not taking a shot at you. They're not trying to, throw a punch. That's just them being them. That's not something that I grasped when I was 23. So if somebody was rude to me when I was 23, I'd be like, what the hell are you talking to me like that for? And so I think that, as time goes on, time kind of seasons you. As you get older, you start to, you calm down and you learn what's important, and you act accordingly.
Yeah, definitely. So that's definitely very important. And I think that going through that process takes you to the next level. And step by step, we get closer and closer. And hopefully, eventually, we reach that full potential. And it's just maturing and being more seasoned in business that allows us to keep taking things to the next level. So one other thing I wanted to touch on is our top skills as an entrepreneur. Now, I know they're different for everybody depending on what business they're in, what industry, what maybe stage of business they're in. But what are some skills that you've learned that really helped you like accelerate your business? Was it maybe marketing or sales or even like you said, the fulfillment to clients. I think it's so cool that you offer that free coaching to clients. That's something that you had to learn. If somebody's new to business, they're gonna be like, why would I do it for free? Like, oh, that's dumb, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
But because of your experience in business, you learn that that's a skill that you deliver so well on that brings you a ton more business and a ton more sales and leads.
I would say the most important one is going to be adaptability, because the landscape in any industry can change. I mean, it does change very quickly. So your ability to realize that and pivot as needed is really, really important.
Okay. So adaptability in the sense of like changing your business strategy, or like, let's say the economy changes and being able to adapt your business to that.
Yeah. So I would say, so I'm a marketer. That's like my strength is marketing and
Okay.
sales. So, it's not finance. It's not anything to do with the numbers in a business. I'm great at lead generation. That is my skill. So if you start to notice, and you do have to track, of course, you got analytics for these kinds of things, but if you start to notice that something that you're doing isn't working as well as it used to, it might be time to pivot and find the next thing. Or, especially if you do get negative feedback. So being in a sales business, you get negative feedback sometimes. I mean, I had a client recently who went and listed their property that they bought with us with another agent. And I always reach out to those clients. And because I'm so competitive with myself, I am on the inside, like that meme that is blowing fire out of its ears. I think it's from Inside Out. If a client lists with someone else or uses a different agent, not because I'm mad at the client, but because I'm mad at myself. Like what did we do that this person was unhappy with to where they didn't want to work with us again? So I asked this person and I said, what could we have done better to have kept you as a client? It's super bummed that you went and used another agent. And they said, well, I would have really liked to have like a closing gift, like a cake or something. I'm like, oh,
that was their actual answer?
A cake. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. I mean, so, our thing is really like making sure that you're successful. And how did you feel about all the training that we gave you and all that? And they was like, oh yeah, I love that. It was really valuable, but it would have been cool if for like a cake or like a set of chopsticks or something. And I was like, all right, okay. So how do I pivot from that? Like, not exactly sure, but being able to hear that kind of feedback and not just completely fall apart, because nobody likes to hear negative feedback. It's not fun. Nobody likes to hear that. But being able to kind of roll with the punches and like, okay, so we didn't get this person a cake. I don't really think that that's something that we need to go change in the business, that we're getting cakes for everyone. And being able to just move on. Adaptability.
Yeah, definitely. I think something that you mentioned was very important is having those feedback loops in place. So having some sort of process or system that allows us to get feedback from clients, get feedback even from our own internal team. I know that's been very valuable in my business, and improving the way that we operate is number one, intentionally getting those feedback loops from my team, people who are boots on the ground, people who are managing those people. I want to have that consistent conversation, and I want to have that conversation go both ways. It's not just me communicating, but it's them communicating with me as well. It's two-way communication. And then also, like you said, with clients, because at the end of the day, the clients are at the heart of everything that we do. And so we want to make sure that we have that open loop of communication to where it's not weird to share feedback and they don't feel like they're criticizing us or being judgmental, but having that open forum for feedback. And then also something that you shared that's very important is not like being too adaptable, I think is the word, is if they want a cake, it doesn't mean we're getting everybody a cake. We're looking for the things that are consistently showing up in all the feedback, and then maybe addressing those things in a way that is applicable to everybody.
Totally. So, if in the feedback it shows up multiple times that like responsiveness, that's something we can absolutely fix and handle company wide. But if it's something like a cake, well, I mean, how do we even do that's not even feasible. We don't know everybody's allergy situations. Like, do you want, and if you get them a chocolate one and they want a strawberry, like, how do you even, you can't really do that at scale, but you can do things like fix communication issues, or like, oh, was there something in our training that you felt like we missed or that you didn't learn? We can add that. So we can definitely, there's things that you kind of have to understand. Oh yes, this is a way we can improve the business. And like, oh, this is kind of a one-off thing that we can't not really something that we can do at any sort of scale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So having that filtering system after you do receive the feedback, to know what is possible, what is feasible, and what we actually want to execute on. So, cool. So are there any other things that you would share with our viewers on how they can run a better business? Like if you were to take your business and you were to make it better overnight, what would be some things that you would change? And maybe our viewers can apply that to their business as well.
Some things that I would change.
And they don't have to be negative. It's just maybe some things that you could do better to improve your business.
So I think that, at least for me, tracking and analytics are something that I don't prioritize enough. It's always on my list. It's always on my Trello of like, make sure you check this, this, and this. Whether it's, looking at your P&L every month, or if you're tracking leads or whatever, every week you're looking at your P&L. I tend to not prioritize that. So if anything else pops up, I'm doing that other thing first. So I think that it's really easy, especially since we just came off of the highest time ever in real estate, and now we're in the lowest time ever. So side note, a lot of people in real estate are like, oh, I'm waiting for the crash. I'm waiting for the crash. The crash happened. It happened this year. We're in it. Less deals, less properties were sold in 2023 than they were in 2008. So while everybody was like waiting for some crazy price drop or something to happen, the real estate crash happened. It didn't happen in the way that they wanted or were expecting. Everybody was expecting rock bottom prices. That part didn't happen. So anyway.
Do you think it's still going to happen?
So here's, you want to get into that. So being in the real estate market, so we do about between 1,000 and 1,500 deals a year across 20 markets. So I feel like I have a pretty good cross section of different things. And what I'm seeing, and what I believe the reason that prices haven't gone down yet, is because obviously buyers don't want to buy properties right now because the interest rates are really high. But the thing that people don't think about is that sellers are also buyers in disguise, because what are they going to do when they sell their house? If they're moving into a new house, they're going to become a buyer. Or if they're selling their investment property, they're probably going to 1031 exchange into something else. Well, something like 85% of mortgages right now are under 5.5%. So it doesn't make sense for any seller to sell right now and jump up to 8% as a buyer. So what's happening is there's no inventory. So because there's no inventory, there's still really high demand. There's a lot of pent up demand, and there's a lot of people waiting on the sidelines with money. It's the difference between this time and 2008. Everybody has money. They're just waiting for something to shift. So because sellers don't want to list right now because they don't want to become buyers in a high interest environment. There's no supply, which has kept prices really high. And I think what's going to happen as interest rates tick lower, we're going to see a big buying surge, at least temporarily, because all these people that have been waiting on the sideline to get something are going to jump in and start getting things again. And we're going to go back to multiple offers and back to that whole song and dance, at least temporarily.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing that I'm seeing in the market is we're kind of in a battle. We have these high interest rates and we have high prices on real estate. And it seems like they're kind of battling it out to see who's going to go down first. Either real estate prices crash for people to be able to afford homes again, or interest rates go down. So which one do you think is going to actually go down first?
I think the rates are going to go down first. And I think that prices are going to go up because we're going to see that buying surge. And I think eventually they will level back out once everybody calms down.
Gets the house.
But I do think that we're going to see prices go up in the near term.
Awesome. Cool. So one last question for you. Do you use social media for your business, and how has it helped you grow your business?
Yeah, so I do use social media for my business, and I didn't for a long time. I resisted it because I was like, oh, I don't like to be on camera. I resisted selfies in the early 2000s until, for 10 or 15 years, I was like, I will never take a selfie because it just felt douchey. And so I resisted social media for a really long time, longer than I should have, because I'm like, I don't want to take videos of myself. Who wants to watch videos of me talking about whatever? And when I noticed that some of my clients were starting to do it when I had been the one to teach them how to do these things, I was like, okay, you know what? You have to do content now. And so I jumped on board with that. But now that that's a mistake that I've made, was not using social media earlier. And now that I do, Because I was expecting, like, you think, oh, I got to lose 20 pounds before I start doing content or any number of things that people don't care. I was expecting people to be like, I started right after I had my first kid and I was like super puffy from being pregnant. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. Everybody's going to call me fat. I have never been called fat on anything ever. So all these things that you're worried about when you start social media, about people are going to pick your face apart or whatever, people are going to tell you you're an idiot. I get that every now and then, but they just really don't. It's not that bad. People do not care what you look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Alrighty, guys, you heard it from the #1 EXP agent in the world. There's so many aspects of business that are important, but at the end of the day, it's all about the client. And so whether you're using social media to bring in these leads and close deals, a lot of times improving that client experience and creating an unforgettable service and perhaps even free training for that client can make a huge difference. Thank you guys for joining today. We will see you all on the next episode.